In today's world, we are increasingly dependent on technology. Our business and personal lives rely on it, but as you've probably noticed, it's unreliable. They promise it'll get better, but it usually gets worse. Our computers are slow, so we end up squinting at smartphones and tablets. We live in constant fear that something's going to happen to our personal data, so we're scared into paying for fake protection that proves useless when disaster strikes. Update attacks, fake Wi-Fi, cloud control, and other industry scandals are designed to keep the money flowing. The jokers we pay to fix our stuff have no clue what they're doing, so they do a virus scan and then wipe out our precious photos. Intelligent, successful people feel intimidated by the chaos and think it's somehow their fault. If they only knew what the industry was doing to them, they'd get torches and pitchforks. If only we had someone to explain it all in plain English so we can start protecting ourselves. Oh wait, we do! It's the Computer Exorcist Podcast with your host, Mark Anthony Arena.
From the Wallace Memorial microphone in my home office, overlooking the can of worms in downtown Rochester, New York, this is the Computer Exorcist Podcast. My name is Mark Anthony Arena, and as I'm sitting here about to give you the intro to my show, this screen stabbing flag just appeared on my screen. It says, "Shame on you! Ready to choose backup options? Protect your cherished picture." Off. All right. Unfortunately, I have to use Microsoft Windows to record the show because of a specific piece of software. But yeah, I call those screen stabbing banners, and shame on them. Anyway, yeah. I am Mark. I am here today with a very special guest. He is one of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life. I am confident you're going to love him. It's Jamarri. Tell us about you.
Oh, man. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you. This is, a long time coming because, oh, my gosh. There's so much for us to go in depth about. But for those who don't know me, my name is Jamarri, or better known as Jam Jam. I'm everybody's cool little digital automation and web hosting expert, where I teach companies how to integrate AI into their business, and as well as host and get away from the big name hosting companies that are screwing them over. So that's a little small bit about me.
And what's your company name, by the way?
Ascension Hosting.
Okay, and we'll toward the end, I'll let you give your plugs for your website and everything. And Side note, I met Jamarri through a networking club I'm in, and just we're the two young guys, even though Jamarri's still half my age, but yeah, and we give tech talks in the club, and I'm just so thrilled to know you. And tell us what's the latest with AI, and go ahead. I mean, what were you gonna talk about?
The big latest in AI. So we all know about Sora. We all know about the different little video AI tools, but there's now one that's actually called Google VEO. So VEO. Mm-hmm. It's basically this video generator that's going to actually challenge Sora, right? And now
what's Sora before we go on?
Yeah, so Sora is another video AI generation tool that you can go to and create a video. Usually your videos are going to be 5 seconds to 10 seconds, and then you can put them out there, right? Now, this is the catch with it, right? So there is a free version, right, which you only get you get a little bit of access to create certain videos of Sora. And
just to try it out, see if you like it.
Yeah, to try it out. Then the paid version, which is usually if you have ChatGPT Plus, is at $21 a month, or $20 plus tax.
So it's an offshoot of ChatGPT?
Yes, it's an offshoot of ChatGPT. So Sora's not even actually it's not even embedded into ChatGPT. It's just completely separate.
But it's still part of them.
Exactly, it's still part of them.
Oh.
And so that's going to lead into something that I want to talk about today. So then they have a third plan that they just released, okay? And it's $200 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And you get 1080p for creating videos. You get all the access to the advanced voice modules. So for those who don't know what the advanced voice modules are, those essentially you basically get to talk into ChatGPT, or you get to talk with, if anyone's seen the movie Her, right, where the guy falls in love with that like AI robot basically.
Oh,
That's
sure. That was like a
exactly
Z-grade Netflix movie I saw years ago.
exactly like, so it's exactly like that basically, where you'll be able to get to talk and interact. And it leads me, and actually I want you to read the privacy thing, but it does lead me to this really insane thing that Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg are doing, which this is a huge kind of like weird turn, because Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg are actually essentially almost teaming up, if you will, against OpenAI.
Which originally Elon Musk was a part of the founding of, correct?
Correct, he was.
And until he saw that they kind of took a turn, right?
Yeah, until then he was like, oh, they're taking a turn. Well, let me come out the woodworks and now let me say this and that.
Wow. I am very encouraged to know that there are going to be multiple AI kings, so to speak. I am sick of living in an industry of monopolies, right? Even if there's several of them, right? And I've said this on my show many times, right? eBay's a monopoly, Microsoft is a monopoly, Apple's a monopoly, Google's a monopoly. They're just all monopolies in their subgenre, their sub-industry. And of course, there will be some consolidation with all this AI garbage, but I'm just thrilled to know that it's not just ChatGPT.
Yeah, and you know what's actually interesting, Mark, is actually if you take a look, so there's two big things that are happening in AI. There's obviously the growth of AI, but then there's the people that are, and this is like kind of the cutting edge, and this is something that we're actually incorporating into my company now, is actually local AI hosting. So where we're now going to start actually just localizing the AI, so that way we don't have to use these big modules. We can just download a version of their module onto our server or onto our own computer and then use it from there offline.
That's also very exciting because, again, my fear with all this AI filth is look at Siri and look at Alexa, right? You think that Siri lives inside your phone or Alexa lives inside that little hockey puck on my kitchen counter. No, they're just speakers that connect you to some evil central monolith that then processes and then responds to you. Right, so when you say something to Siri or Alexa, it calls home to some server in Virginia or whatever and then comes back. And I remember asking you a few weeks ago, I said, hey, Jamarri, is there an AI that's locally held in your house, within your physical house, so that even if you chop off the internet and even if we have World War III, heaven forbid, it's totally independent?
Mm-hmm. Correct. So there's a few. There is actually, I'm going to actually pull up my list here, because this is actually something I've been talking about within my course, and I'm going over these videos of actually which local AI you can use, because the thing with a lot of these local AIs is that this is the difficulty about it. You need to technically have a software like that has the UI, so you can then interact with it, right? Which is perfectly fine. And there's
user
different
interface.
Yeah, the little user interface.
The
So there's LM Studio, there's anything LLM.com, and then there's Jan AI, and then there's Olama. I personally use LM Studios, and I'm getting ready to go over anything LLM. The great thing I like about these, and specifically, shoot.
Plug your course, by the way, or do you want to do that at the end?
I'll do it at the end.
Okay.
But so with the LM Studios, what I like the most, there's actually a site that's called huggingface.co.
What is it?
And the Hugging Face. Yeah, I know you know how techies are. We don't come up with a great names.
Yeah, Hugging Face.
Yes, huggingface.co.
You know, y'all wonder where I get my knowledge, right? I'm up here on my pulpit teaching you guys every week. But this is where I've got a few friends in my life who teach me this stuff. So I'm learning right now along with everyone else. All right, Hugging Face.
Yes, so huggingface.co is actually the place where all of the modules out there for all the different AIs are uploaded. Meaning that anybody can go on here and take one of the models and then go and train it for their own purpose.
Wait, that's also very encouraging that these, I mean, even if it's not completely open source, it's still freely available. This is all really encouraging. Like, I was exhausted tonight. I gotta be honest here. I was exhausted tonight, and I was thinking to myself, I don't want to do this show. Like, I'm fascinated by Jamarri, but I don't want to do a depressing show that makes me angry like most of my episodes turn out to be. But no, that's really good. That, look, I don't like AI. However, I'm glad to know that you can have, again, a local copy that's freely available, so it's not just centralized. That's huge.
And the great thing about it is that, now, obviously, it's going to depend on your computer, right? Because it does require some processing power and things of that nature.
And that's understandable.
Although, there is actually different models that people are actually tweaking, because with huggingface.co, it's all open source, actually. All of it is.
Wow. Really?
So you can
there's
actually...
real open source AI.
Yeah, so you can actually go on there. Well, I mean, we also have to thank Mark Zuckerberg for that. Even though...
Wow.
Okay. Mark Zuckerberg, right? He technically, we got to give credit where credit's due. He did create the Llama model, where it is actually open source, and then people did obviously take from that. Llama.
All right.
Yeah. Now, obviously, when I say partly open source, there is a catch to it. Obviously, the catch is that there is part of it that's open source, and then the rest of it's all closed source for Meta. Which I'd rather have that in a society than everything just be closed off.
Absolutely, and I'm going to bring up something, hopefully you'll say no, but is this AI, is his agreement where, hey, look, it's partially mine and partially open source, but by the way, I'm going to suck all the findings, right? Is he going to take any of your data after you use it?
Well, it is Mark Zuckerberg, so we can't rule that out of the equation. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't do it, right? Like, that's where I would be really surprised. I do know that there is I wouldn't say technically like a backdoor, but hey, the data that you're going to be training with, right, is also going to be used for the betterment of the actual AI itself. So it's like, yes, the data is most definitely going to be sucked out, but quote unquote, it will be used for the betterment of the AI itself. Which, don't get me wrong, like in my course, AI University, I've actually tested, so in these videos, I'm actually testing all 5 of the top AIs. So I'm testing ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, and Meta. And out of all those 5, hands down, ChatGPT is going to take the first place. Second place is going to be Perplexity. Third place would be Meta, just because I like the way that Meta actually has its outputs. It actually prints things out, understandably, right? So it actually is a great teacher. And then Claude. Now, a lot of people will disagree. They're like, oh, I love Claude. I use Claude. Claude, I don't like the fact that they reduce how much you can actually send. And that I don't like, because if I start sending messages here, and there, after a while, I get capped, right? Which doesn't make any sense, because it's almost like forcing you to upgrade, basically.
Yeah, of course. There's always that kind of force them into the next tier of subscription model. Hey, side note. 2 questions. Number 1, what happened to Bard? Okay, Google had Gemini and they had Bard, and they had 2 of them. So what happened?
So what happened is that actually Bard just became Gemini, essentially.
I just got sucked into it. Good. So now we don't have 2 brands to worry about. Great.
Exactly. Which, that actually is something that's going to be really scary to think about.
Everything's scary, Jamarri.
well, this I think this is a little bit more scary compared to anything else in our current time. Chrome is going to be forced to be sold off, and because of that, what most people don't think about is Gmail, your Google Sheets. Everything that's in that little 9 dots in the top right corner, there has been no communication of, hey, even though we have to sell off Chrome, no worries, your emails are going to be fine. This is there's nothing about that at all.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I always say on the show that lawmakers are 500,000 years behind everyone else. So they might come out with a law that sounds good, like, yeah, let's hurt Google. And the primitive mind inside of us is like, yeah, Schadenfreude. But then it's like, okay, this doesn't actually help. This doesn't break up the monopoly. And by the way, whenever you do something like this, Google will probably strike back tenfold, right?
Yeah, and this is going to hurt the consumers. And that's why, what's very interesting, Gemini, their AI is actually not that good. Even though you can actually write emails with it, like you can actually connect it to your Google Sheets, you can connect it to your Google Docs, your emails, and you can basically automate a lot of things with Gemini, which is great, right? Now, obviously, they've been updating the model, although the other AI models are going to take the cake because it's insane to me, by the way. Google, with all the data that it has.
Right, I was going to say, and Google has engorged itself for the past 25 years with our data.
Exactly, and it's almost as if like they're not even using it for the AI.
It's kind of a good thing, yeah, wow.
It's a good thing, but also at the same time, it's like it's so underwhelming, I guess, is the best way to put it. Because it's like, I went in there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing. Like, this is, like, Google has an AI, by the way, that isn't even, like, connected to the web browsing, right? Which doesn't really make any sense because it's like, you're Google for crying out loud. Like, Google should be able to, like, I understand, but this is why I like going back to, like, Hugging Face, right? On Hugging Face, there's multiple different like AI versions in here. There's even the versions from NVIDIA. There's the versions from Tencent, DeepSeek. They have, it's like a plethora of things in here. There's even ones for image to video. There's ones to text images, object detection. There's just like every single category, it's on here. And this right here is for the betterment of AI. And I've even thought about actually taking one of these AIs and then creating like a personalized version of it on my computer. Because I've seen people already do it. And that's going to be the next big wave, is that all it takes is for one really smart guy to take one of these AIs, put it on their own computer, and then have it operate by itself. And that's why I think localizing AI is going to be one of the next big moves. And for those who don't have, like, let's say the computer processing power, right? Well, there's going to actually be hosting companies, right? And most hosting companies aren't onto this. But I've realized that, okay, if I can get a server, right, whether it has hard drive or SSD, right, doesn't really matter. As long as I can get a server, right, where I can install one of these AI models on there.
Localized, right? And you could, quote unquote, resell it to people who use it occasionally.
Exactly.
Wow. And I was going to say, the smart guy you're referring to is probably you. And honestly, if you want, I can connect you with a lot of people who could sell PCs that you design. So, for example, my guy locally here, I have a guy who sells a PC that he and I designed together. So you could design a PC with somebody that already has preloaded the localized AI and sell it to people. And you can do that, and it would help break up the monopoly, and it would help break up that consolidation of power.
It would. And see, the big thing, though, is that it's not even just the privacy issue, it's also the data issue, because we have to figure out a way to train those models and then package them and then give them to someone, right? It's almost like if we really think about it, the phones that we have today have more technology in them than the rocket that was used to send the guy into space.
Oh, way more, way more. However, there's also my whole pet peeve with the phones and the tablets is those aren't independent computers in your pocket. That's a lie.
Bingo.
They're computers that are controlled forever by Apple or Google or whoever.
Bingo. And that is something that I believe 90% of people don't understand, especially, no offense to the older generation. That's how they actually get the older generation to constantly upgrade their phones.
Yeah, because I was told to buy
more data. Exactly. Yeah. They keep forking over so much more data and this is something I've been taking actually pretty more seriously. There's a site that's actually called privacy.com. I don't know if you know about this.
No, never heard of this. You're teaching me. I'm in the student's chair tonight. This is good.
The privacy.com is hands down, because for anybody that's had to deal with companies constantly charging your card, right? even though
Yeah.
you've told them like, hey, don't charge my card, or
Mm-hmm.
they like to increase the price randomly. What's nice about this is that you basically get to create virtual cards. And
Oh,
on the
okay.
free
Oh,
plan,
okay.
yeah, like I'm surprised you didn't even know about this, but it's like you can create virtual cards and then just go use them wherever you actually need to without the need of having to use your regular card.
And years ago, I mean, back even in '05, I had probably before you were born, when I got out of college, I had this, oh, what
I
was
was 3 years old, by the way, in
Oh, cool.
2005.
I had this credit card, and it was before, I think it was called Faya Card Services before Bank of America bought them. And even back then, their website had a thing where I could generate a temporary card number just for one vendor. And that was pretty cool. So a lot of credit card vendors will offer that. Can I, when you're finished with that thought, I want to step back and ask you a couple questions here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So the reason why I highly recommend privacy.com to people is that it's been something that I've seen over the last few years. It's gotten so much better. The one big thing I like is those virtual cards. Like today I tried this, I was going through a thing called Build.com. Build.com used to be called Divvy.
Oh,
Right?
and they were gobbled by Intuit, correct?
Bingo. And so I was signing up, did the whole application, and then I was on the phone today with the support, and I was asking, hey, if I wanted to delete my account, how could I? Barely any answer, right?
Sure.
And the way this relates to AI is that it's there every time you now go to all these different sites and you try to ask for support, none of their AIs are even functioning. It's like these AIs that they're using for their customer support can barely do anything.
Not at all surprised. Whenever this little annoying thing bursts out and pops up at me from every website, pops up the corner, hey, can we help you? I just either close it or I type human. And then it'll say, oh, hi, nice to meet you, human. And you have to keep fighting with it until you get,
And some of these AIs have actually gotten on to actually, if you type in, so before, what most people didn't know, if with those IVR systems, it's just any one of those, if you actually just typed or you kept saying the word customer support, it would automatically just forward you to customer support.
Great.
But now the systems are getting a lot better and they're going, oh, I don't understand you. I don't understand you. I don't understand you.
It's just phone trees. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just phone trees. And so that's why me taking a look at privacy, trying to figure out better ways to obviously like manage all my expenses in the company and expand from here it's been like very big eye-opening because especially when I deal with local AI, right? And like seeing ways that I can constantly improve this eventually, my goal is in the future is to have it where those local AIs will eventually, some way, somehow, okay, have it where you have your own little module, right? Your own little user interface that you can then go in and be like, okay, delete my data, delete what this AI was trained on, and then go back to the base version of the AI.
Oh, that's what I do with my own Facebook account. I've actually gone through, all right, here again, I've been a Facebook member since '04, right? So what were you, 2 years old?
Yeah.
And I've been going through recently and deleting by hand. You have to do it mostly by hand. Your personal direct messages, your posts on your own wall, your posts on other people's walls, other people's posts on your walls, your comments on other people's posts. I mean, there's several categories, and each category, of course, has a completely different procedure, of course, in order to terrify. But yeah, I've been doing all of that manually, of course. And let me throw something at you. I talked to my buddy Kenley, and he might come on the show pretty soon, actually. Another really brilliant guy. And he's worked for internet providers locally for his whole career. And he was telling me about some AI that he was playing around with while he was home on his couch. And he said, if you're asking a question of AI, I found this fascinating. The AI will just spit out whatever it can as soon as it can, right? And then if you ask it the same question over and over again, it won't bother to check its answers. It won't bother to reconsider. It'll just say, well, I already told him this, so let's just keep reusing this answer, right?
So there's a counter to that, actually. And the counter is really actually simple. What you have to do is actually, your prompt matters with AI. Right?
And that's what he said. He said if you type your question and then you type think about it for a while, it tells the AI to think deeper and look for deeper sources.
A way to simplify that, actually, I usually go when I'm like working with AI. I usually go, depending on if the AI has browse capabilities, I always will go out and browse through, because that's like a little secret trick you can use. Because sometimes if you just go look at this website, it'll go, oh, I don't have access. But you can switch your wording by just going, go out and browse through information and data to come up with X answer, right?
As opposed to coming up with it itself.
Bingo. So then what it then does is that it will go out, it'll take the different answers and then actually create the answer for you.
All right. Will it show sources, by the way?
Yes. So now ChatGPT does now make it where it shows the sources. Perplexity does it. Claude does it.
Because otherwise they'll just snuff out all of these third-party sites. So again, it'll just be you going to Google and Google's Gemini giving you the answer, and then it'll crush all the websites that it's deriving from, right?
In a way, so because I do SEO for some clients. Something that people should be aware of is that if you have a website out there, and this is actually kind of the biggest benefit for those who are low dogs, like underdogs like myself, when it comes to hosting, I can actually go out, take all these different websites of my competitor, and I take them, and then I give it to ChatGPT, and I go browse through these, and then tell me all their faults, what they fail on, how can I outdo this, and then it gives me plot holes. Same thing with their terms of service, by the way. Take a person's terms of service, go put it into ChatGPT, and go tell me a plot hole with this. Right, and do that for big companies, not small companies, by the way. It will do that. And so, what's actually an issue that's starting to happen is that if you go to your site, and this is why it's important, which most 90% of people, maybe 80, I'm going to be generous, 80% of people won't know this. You need to set up tracking on your site so that way you know what's being sent to your site, because there's actually a lot of sites actually that have had almost 100,000 hits in a day
from AI.
From AI.
Wow. Which basically just puts an unfair burden on that site, because guess what? They're taking information from them without being a normal human who gets a normal set of eyes that watches the advertisement on the website. So the website's just basically giving it to Google for free without making any ad revenue, right?
Bingo. And it's not just Google, it's Gemini that does it.
Right, anyone.
Perplexity is pretty good, though, because Perplexity will actually give you the direct sources in a organized format, right? So for those who join the AI University on School, you will be able to actually see that in a lot of those videos that I go over. But it is hands down, there's some really interesting ways and things you can do. I highly recommend taking stock data, giving it to ChatGPT or any of these AIs, and telling it to act as if it's one of the best stock traders on the planet.
So you specifically have to say, pretend you're the best stock trader on the planet for it to realize, instead of just giving it the thing?
Well, yeah, because it's think of it as like Simon Says, right?
Yeah.
So if you go Simon Says X, right? Yeah, so it takes you literally. So it's like Simon says this. Okay, it's going to do that. If you just go do this, then it's going to do it, but it won't have a quality output.
Oh, so if you say, hey, here's some historical stock data, and should I make money can you make me money on this stock? It'll probably say, sure, I'll make you some money, but
yeah, it'll be like, sure, I can make you money, but you should also, here's a risk, negative. It's going to give you negatives a lot because of the guardrails.
Well, it's just like programming, right? It's the same thing. When you tell a computer something, you have to be very specific. Be careful what you wish for. First of all of this stuff we're talking about, right? It's all just chaos, and it's on the cutting edge. How's that? I got our title for the episode: Chaos on the Cutting Edge.
That's really good.
Done. All right, so here we are. We have all this chaos, right? And nothing works right, and whatever. It's called technology lag, okay? You've got all this stuff going on up there and where you are on the cutting edge, but meanwhile, 99% of people don't know their AOL password, and 99% of people don't even have their smartphone connected to their home Wi-Fi, so they're wasting billions of gigs of data with Verizon, paying $900 a month or $89 a month or whatever. And it's just basic stuff, right? And that's what I'm trying to do, is train an army of real human beings, because guess what? It's a thing. There's a thing called real human beings, and they want to be able to feed their families, and they want to be able to work for money. So I'm training real human beings on how to get people caught up on this stuff, and how to do stuff like, hey, you know what? Why are you being charged $16 a month by the Apple App Store for some photo app that you never even wanted? and so on.
I think the best way to solve that, honestly, is break up the localized monopolies. Now, what I mean by that is that, so here in Texas, there's certain apartments that you move into where the only internet service you can go with is AT&T or Spectrum. There's some apartments where the same thing applies for like the electricity, in all that. Right now, obviously, we live in deregulated grid here, so usually whenever you move here in Texas, you can usually choose from multiple options, although sometimes you get kind of screwed and you get stuck with one electricity company. That is the issue. If you can break
absolutely.
that up, like before, there used to be a thing that was called Clear Internet, and then Spirit, right? I think
Sprint bought them.
Sprint. Yes,
And then
Sprint.
T-Mobile bought them. Yeah.
Exactly. So do you see that? That's three companies. It started out with Clear, then Clear gets bought by Sprint, and then Sprint gets bought by T-Mobile.
But T-Mobile, to answer your question, yeah, I mean, absolutely, that's a huge component of what I do for my clients is, okay, let's have a battle against your internet company, and let's try to get you a better alternative. Absolutely. And when, in the absence of a good alternative, sometimes I'll sign them up for T-Mobile cellular internet. I just don't think cellular internet, I just don't like it for heavy-duty use, but sure.
Yeah, and then that's something that I've been really thinking about, because it's going to come to a point in time, too, and it circles back to the AI, where these phones, right, they are currently, some companies, I would say, from what I've gathered intel on, are working on ways to actually, for the new phone models, is that they will actually come with the AI-powered chip in them.
Of
so
course.
that way you can then use and interact with the AI. My issue with that is that what happens, right? What are the guardrails? And
Nothing, because
Exactly.
no one knows what's going on. No one has any clue. The consumers, the lawmakers, the people in charge, the guys implementing it, the jokers with one brain cell at the Verizon store who are just selling you something because they heard it was good. Nobody.
Well, this is the thing, though. They are adding guardrails, but the guardrails are so stupid.
They're like twisty ties, right?
It's not even that. So, for example, Midjourney, right? So, Midjourney, I went in there, and because they have guardrails for oh, you can't create dirty pictures, or oh, you can't do this and that. I asked it to create a dirty toilet. Do you know what it gave me back as a response?
Did it say sorry, too bad?
Yes, it's sorry, this has actually been blocked by moderators because we think this violates our terms. I'm like, what? So then you know what I did? All I did is I just put simply dirty toilet SFW. And it worked.
So here's the deal. Again, and I say this all the time. All of this evil technology all runs on keywords, right? I've said this so many times. It all runs on keywords. So because you use the word dirty, even though it's not at all in that context that they meant, you're using it in the terms of filthy toilet, right?
Yeah.
But the AI is so basic and so evil and so limited, right, that it can't figure it out because computers are designed by people with no brains. And that's why I always say the mind of man is holy. If you said that to a human being, they would know the difference.
Exactly. And that there is I believe, just, oh my goodness. The keyword-based technology is driving us into a hole. Because more and more layman's learns about it, the more and more it gets worse, basically.
Well, sure. Look at my own. I do an email quarterly. I call it my snarky quarterly spam. And as you might know, since you know me, I use colorful language. And I mean, not bad language. I just use colorful language to spice things up and keep people's attention. So one day, this happened a couple times actually, past 2 quarters, I log into my email spam sending program and I like them. Again, I use underdogs and I use competitive companies instead of the big monopolies. So I like them, whatever. But one day I log in, I type up my little snarky, colorful spam, and then I save it and I come back later. Next time I go to log in, it says, sorry, too bad, shame on you, can't log in. You don't exist. Really? So it's just sorry, too bad. You know, the cloud stonewalling, right? Too bad for you, no recourse. So I somehow emailed the jokers and they said, oh, sorry, you said a bad keyword, so we assumed you were a terrorist. It went through our automated terrorist system.
Mm-hmm. And
Really, guys? Really?
And that's something actually I have to deal with as a hosting company. I'm not allowed. So there's actually a sanction list. So for anybody that is a international company or you work with anybody anywhere, if you help one of these sanctioned people, yeah, Uncle Sam will be coming for you.
Wow.
So keep that in very good mind.
Wow. We are coming up on the half hour here. So, Jamarri, give us your info, and then I'm going to have you back next week, and we'll continue this conversation because we've just begun here. So tell the folks how they can get a hold of you to take your course and all that.
Yeah, so if you guys would like, I'm actually going to put my phone number out here, my personal one. If you guys want to get in contact with me, it's 972-878-8577. Again, that's 972-878-8577. That's the best way to get in contact with me. Obviously, you can get my email, but shoot me a text because I am the younger generation, and it's a lot easier to manage when someone sends me a text versus if I get 10 phone calls and then they're all like, hey, what about, could you do this and this? And then it's like, oh, right. And then I have to then record every call, which I could do that, by the way, legally, because this is a first-party state. Texas is. Chicago used to be, by the way. But I'll put you this way. The little corrupt politicians got rid of that because someone recorded aldermans and the mayor saying corrupt things. But I digress.
Whoa,
So they got rid of that.
Really? And so what's your website?
It's Ascension Hosting. So an easier, quick way to get to it is acnhost.com.
acnhost.com or Ascension Hosting. If you're a small business, you want a website that is protected from GoDaddy. If you want an alternative to GoDaddy so that your website actually stands and isn't rated constantly, then find anyone besides GoDaddy, for example, Ascension. We will be back next week. Thank you so much. This conversation is just getting started. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Sounds awesome.
It's alright now. Make it on my own. I paid my time and my dues, and now I'm coming home. First they give you an inch, and then they take